Having said that, I'd like to now turn things over to our very first speaker of the morning from the American Youth Policy Forum, the Executive Director, Betsy Brand. Betsy.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate this session today, and I'm really pleased to be here. The topic of expanded learning opportunities is one that I personally am very interested in and believe that there's a tremendous amount of space and opportunity to create programs across communities that can help the young people that Michael was just talking about, the ones that do get lost. And having spent many, many years in education policy, I think the whole idea of expanded learning opportunities is one whose time has definitely come. There's a tremendous amount of interest in it from many fronts and for many different reasons. And I think it's going to play a key part of the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act next year and the next 2 years when Congress starts working on that. There are lots of reasons to expand our notion of where and when learning happens, and expanded learning opportunities is a great way to connect the conversation to education reform. So this morning, I am going to make comments mainly about a publication that AYPF developed and released earlier in the year. It's called Learning Around the Clock: The Benefits of Expanded Learning Opportunities for Older Youth. I don't know whether the flyer on this made it into your packet, but if not, we will make sure that it gets emailed to you. The document is also available on the AYPF website for downloading, and also you can see us about getting hard copies. It's quite long, so I didn't carry copies for everybody. I do have a couple up here if anybody's interested. But similar to some of the other AYPF compendia, we looked for programs that had a good, high-quality evaluation of the program. Mainly, they had to have a third-party evaluation. It had to be relatively recent, within 5 years or so, and it needed to have some type of comparison group. And those are the main criteria that we that we use to identify evaluations. Unfortunately, there aren't that many evaluations that meet those criteria, either in the after-school world, in the OST world, whatever you want to call it, and in regular education. So it's a challenge to find good evaluations. But we did find 20 of them, and they're summarized in this document in about 3 to 4 pages. They'll give you a brief snapshot of what the program does, what the research says, what the outcomes are for the young people, and it also provides demographic information to the extent it exists on the target population. We also include recommendations at the policy recommendations at the end of the document. But my charge today was to help provide a definition of expanded learning opportunities, talk about some of the outcomes that result from young people participating in expanded learning opportunities, and to talk about the elements of success, some of the key characteristics of the programs that make them successful. And then I also just will briefly mention the names of some of the programs that we looked at that specifically focus on high school students of color and disadvantaged young people. Because when I got the charge from Michael, and he said our focus is on high school students of color, I had not really gone through this document with that lens in mind, and so I went through looking at all the different programs to really identify which programs were serving which key target populations. So I just want to mention that near the end. But first, we have come up with a very broad definition of expanded learning opportunities, and I want to refer to it because it really does set the stage for how we envision these programs connecting to education and to other services in the community. So we use the term expanded learning opportunity to describe the range of programs and activities available to young people that occur beyond the regular school hours. So we are talking about after school, before school, weekends, summertime. In our mind, they're particularly for older youth. They occur in a 24/7 environment, so we want to really break down the barriers of what happens in school. They draw upon the resources of the community. They blur the lines between schools and other valuable teachers, such as colleges, community-based organizations, museums, and employers, and they incorporate virtual learning where appropriate. They include traditional after-school activities that have an academic focus, but they also incorporate activities such as internships with employers, independent study in alternative settings, classes on college campuses for high school students such as dual enrollment, and wraparound support services. So we really do take a very broad view of what expanded learning opportunities are, and I think that's really the right view to take, that we shouldn't just have a really narrow definition of what either after school is or ELOs, because it is all of these things and more when you start to get into it at the community level. So we found that expanded learning opportunities contribute to improved outcomes in 4 major areas. And they include academic outcomes, career preparation, social and emotional development, and health and wellness. And some of the 22 evaluations that we included in the compendia, 14 of them demonstrated success in academic outcomes. So a lot of them are obviously focused on academics. Many of the programs that we profiled are not as focused on academic outcomes, and that may be why only 14 of 22 showed up on that screen. But for the ones that had a focus on academics, they showed improvements in academic achievement, school attendance, gains in test scores, graduation, reducing dropout rates, increasing high school graduation rates, improving college preparation by increasing the number of college prep courses that students take, improving academic success behaviors, and improving post-secondary enrollment rates. So overall, there's a lot of improvement that can be seen from the academic domain. 3 programs demonstrated success in career preparation, and again, that's because not many of these programs are focused on career prep, but the ones that are focused on career prep demonstrated improvements in readiness, work readiness skills, financial literacy, which is important these days, understanding systems, goal setting, and working with others. Those are all pretty fundamental skills that you need to be successful in the workplace. 13 programs demonstrated success in social and emotional development. And our take on this is if you don't have kids in the right frame of mind and with the appropriate developmental supports to learn, they're not going to learn and they're not going to be successful. So we need to really pay more attention, I think, to kind of the non-cognitive aspects of development. But some of the indicators, some of the positive indicators that we saw in this area were improving the quality of relationships between young people and their parents, getting parents much more involved in education, creating relationships with other adults, not just a parent, but an employer, or an advisor, a mentor, improved self-esteem, reduction in isolation, and given the teen suicide rate, that might be a very important finding. And then improvements in classroom behavior, which I'm sure everybody who teaches would appreciate. 5 programs showed positive benefits to health and wellness. Again, not every program focused on this, but the ones that did all had positive outcomes. This includes an increased awareness of crime and bullying prevention, decline in sexual activity and teenage prevention, increased odds of receiving good primary health care, and increased physical activity. Again, all important indicators that I think we need to pay attention to.